I had a busy couple of weeks. Mainly it had to do with the preparations for CMT3, which is the charter market technician path and journey that I hope I managed to finalize. And the reason is, I always care a lot about it, self-improvement, about improving my own knowledge, about not stopping to craft my skills better, to work on my own craft. And I keep learning. I had this beautiful stream recently with Big Chats, who's my great friend, and we were discussing through how important it is to keep improving, keep learning, and you can be the best. You can be the best in the world, right? You can be the best in your professional, if you're professional kind of like field. But if you do not keep improving, you are left far behind, because there is always going to be somebody who's better, who's faster, who's smarter than you. And here in trading, it is extremely important, everybody, because you keep trading against a very fast-pacing market. You are trading against uh, multi-billion establishments, against institutions who are equipped with basically, well, multi-million dollar worth of AI, artificial intelligence based programs, neural networks that compute the best market projections way better than me, than anybody here in the chat and outside do, because this is what they actually spend so much money on, right? So I'm going to try my best to introduce some new brief, fresh concepts that I actually, started paying more attention to. Okay, and if that's fine with you, I'd love to. Yeah, somebody's saying that there was the Fed's fault, that Fed was trying to jeopardize our stuff here, one way or another. Let me get to the merit and observe something that um, well, we were looking at for the past months. Basically, this is a double A chart for Bitcoin spot USD against the dollar. Okay, upper curve, we have Bitcoin chart. Up lower curve on the black, we have the dollar. Okay, dollar per the DXY, the dollar index, which is basically comparing the dollar strength, economic strength of dollar per se against the basket of other currencies, right? Such as like Swedish krona, such as like euro, of course, British pound, and so on. So you would have a clean vision. You would have a clean vision that, whenever dollar pumps, gold tends to dump, right? There is some negative correlation between dollar and gold. And because Bitcoin is a sort of a similar category, it's called digital gold, and it's called digital gold with pretty much very concrete reasons, right? Due to the digital scarcities, but not only that. Okay, what is crucial for you to understand, everybody, is that we have the market correlation. The market correlation, as in the markets are correlated, right? It is very rare occurrence that some markets would not be correlated amongst the others, like with the others. This could only happen when the markets were closed, when there was no free float, when there was some embargoes, for example, some trade deals, stopped or frozen, right? When the trade deals freeze, this is the only way that you actually just limit the market. And well, before the gold standard was actually, I should say, diminished, broken down in 1971 by President Nixon, you used to have more or less fixed rates of currencies, right? And only soon after changing, the gold standard in 1971, you would have significant boost on an overall emergency, I should say, across the world, that would start differentiating, the currencies for the rates, right? And this free float of currencies, this so-called free market, although it's not fully free. This free market enabled more correlations, right? The market started correlating between one another more or less freely, and this is where it leads us. Dollar tends to be, or usually, used to be at least, some sort of like a safe haven place, right? So whenever you would see the market crashing, especially on the S&P 500 per the equities, you would see some sort of like uncertainty in the market. People would withdraw the money back to the dollar, right? Which would intensify, I should say, increase the dollar's rating, and at the same time decrease the stock's rating or any other thing that is denominated in dollars. And similarly, we are observing this kind of like interesting trends, right, and tendencies with analyzing the correlation between Bitcoin and dollar. So part of the black curve being the dollar, you can see that there is at least, not even occasional, but quite well laid, correlation that changes over the time. It's not static. It evolves. It keeps evolving. It is dynamic. Okay, and because it is dynamic, well, it tells you that there is no single recipe. There is not a single recipe, everybody, that would make this this last forever. And instead, we see that most of the reversals on the markets, right? Most of the reversals on the markets. Let's say here, dollar reversed back in 2017. This, well, aligned in tandem with perfect rally on Bitcoin. Whenever the Bitcoin peaked, it usually had to do with this overall bottoming process on the dollar side, right? Then whenever the dollar was gaining on strength, Bitcoin was actually timed nicely to go through the bear market, right? And here you would have the some local periods, like I said, that the market tends to evolve depending on some sort of like fundamental reasons, right? Whenever there's a crash in the market, just like you would see the COVID crash, right? Whenever there is some price shock, like some president's assassination or some pandemics, or like catastrophes, climate catastrophes, or whatever you name that, something that you cannot control or predict with charts, the markets usually tend to react in a perfect correlation. It means that everything is dumping, right? During the COVID crash, practically everything was dumping. And, perhaps aside from dollar, right? But you would see certain markets that are poorly correlated, that are not correlated at all, dumping in tandem, which means the correlation increases overall, right? But most important point is that for most of the time, whenever the one peaks, or the Bitcoin peaks, it is additionally confirmed by a dollar bottom. Whenever the dollar peaks, it is usually confirmed by a Bitcoin bottom. Whenever here you see an instance, an occurrence of a double bottom, pattern for dollar in here, right? It aligned with the Bitcoin peaking process. Okay, this is not really, I should say, of course, too much of a worry in the long-term horizon, but it is just pointing out some facts that Bitcoin is strongly correlated with dollar, and whatever happens across the other markets that makes people withdraw to the dollars, right? This would impact also the risk off situation for Bitcoin. And you can actually tell that for the past half a year, ever since June 2020, this year, half a year ago, you were seeing dollar pretty much ascending in value, right? The DXY index for the versus the other currencies, the basket of other currencies, was showing off the strength of dollar, right? Which for some time, not the all time, but for some time, showed aligned directionally with that very interesting case and occurrence that Bitcoin was pumping along with the dollar, right? Which tells you that Bitcoin was on a similar basis used as a hedge, used as this sort of like a safe haven, right? Perhaps this might have had to do with the inflation story, right? Quick check, everybody, if the quick check if the connection is fine. I can see quick check through the comments. I think it's you say perfect, better, all good, perfect, okay, better. Okay. Whenever there is an occurrence that you guys stop hearing me well, I have no idea what's up. I never really have these problems, but keep me posted in chats. Okay. Hope that makes sense. And what I guys want you to take away from this very piece is that if you want to start observing certain reversals upon a market, usually you want to confirm it from many different angles, be it from the fundamental analysis, perhaps fundamental factors outside Bitcoin market has, have changed, like the pandemic. Just it does impact the entire systemic, approach to the markets holistically. It doesn't impact just Bitcoin. So whenever something changes, like there's a Matrix 4, I think Matrix 4 premiere in a couple of days. So they say when you have this deja vu, you have this glitch in the matrix when something, they say that they change something in the system, right? So I'm talking about this sort of like a change in the system where some fundamental factor all of a sudden appears and impacts, okay, and start impacting the markets outside. So here, by observing the correlation and observing the peaking and bottoming processes, you can get additional confirmation and confluence and convergence for more likely, probable trade ideas. So whenever dollar, has been showing some sort of like a strength, that at one point, perhaps if there is a technical correction somehow, or you had this Evergrande peak news coming in on Bitcoin, then most of the time the corrections on dollar are going to align with the pumps on Bitcoin, and vice versa, the other way around, right? But most importantly, most of the peaks, not everyone, not every single one, but most of the peaks on the markets, most of the peaks between dollar and Bitcoin, most of the peaks and troughs, most of the reversal inflection points and trends are going to align. So bottom and peak on Bitcoin and on dollar are going to mainly appear in tandem. Okay. And knowing of that, everybody, we can also have a look. We can also have a look in something that is called the new version of BirbicatorPRO, the new B Pro. Okay. Which basically tells you and gives you some sort of like hints whether or not, in my opinion, this $100,000 levels and regions on Bitcoin are still valid. And for everybody's note, I do believe that this local disruption, this local disturbance that we have recently seen, and I'm referring to this local correction, which started off with the fake out candle with the Dartmouth candle, where it actually just, you had some ranging marketing, some pumping market. You had pretty decent closes all across the board, some local correction, and then you would have the Evergrande, which peaked, took out the highs, liquidated the shorts, and at the same time liquidated the longs. Okay, and pretty much came up with this Dartmouth candle, which literally was the local reversal, and this happened at the perfect, I should say, or not, coincidence with the Evergrande news. Okay, so funnily enough, when you think about that, this initiated something external, initiated the snowball effect that turned over the time more and more technical, right? As we were seeing more of the new Omicron virus, like Omicron, variant of COVID, and other external thought, the correction got deeper and deeper. So does this correction really mean the bull market is over, or that we are not going to ever touch, this $100,000 like region ever again? Well, in my opinion, not at all, right? The way I look at it, everybody, is if we have the B Pro laid on top of the chart or not overlaid, but we are moving in a range. For the past more than half a year, we're moving in a range, in this local range. Okay, in this local range, when you see that, okay, between the range highs and the range lows, Well, you had the lows swept in here twice, right? You had the bottom, you had the top, you had the highs swept twice as well, right? So this just made this range larger. So the entire range, as a matter of fact, should be really distributed between the real high, the real low, and the real high, right? Which makes it quite a large instance. And the base size of the pattern of this large rectangle, this large high time frame pattern, right now approaching this local 50% retracement, if you will. Okay, this this tells you that we are ranging, right? We are ranging on the macro time frame. We are ranging, and this local correction that got disturbed by this external factor, then later turned more and more technical, with the external fat coming in. This, in my opinion, only extended the wait time, right? It did not, in my opinion, invalidate the bullishness of the longer time frame horizon, right? And the reason is, well, all the previous scenario kind of like inputs that I was laying out there, for the fifth wave of Elliott, or this overall, I should say, range in the logic context, this makes it a continuation pattern, probably more to this third leg up, right? As you know, the Elliott wave practitioners, or theorists, would tell you that every primary trend, every major trend, consists of 5 waves. Okay, 3 motive waves and 2 corrective waves. And it works for the bull markets, it works for the bear markets, depending on the direction of the primary trend. And to me, this does not look like a top. We didn't have really the top just yet, based on the technical analysis. And the reason is because, well, at least we have not made the lower low to confirm that, well, the trend is downwards. Okay, we didn't have this instance just yet. So I could only reconsider this long-term bullishness on my end, provided that we would see an actual, senseful, with loads of sense, and then combination of the on-chain analysis, of the sentiment factors, of the intermarket factors, this major breakdown that would take us beneath 28,000. This and actually close there. I'm not talking about sweeping the lows and just climbing back above like the same day. This doesn't really work that way. But most importantly, this is neutral. This is not bearish. This is not bullish either. This is just neutral. And neutral, per the large consolidation, the larger the consolidation is, the more, as the practice shows, the more people put doubt in it instead of the trust, because the more they doubt over the time that it's ever going to break upwards, right? And the actual result is that when you go and type in the fear and greed index, right, then what you have is this extreme fear. What you have is this historical records that show you that whenever Bitcoin historically touched, the area of fear and greed index, tagging 0 to 20, it has marked, well, this didn't happen really too often, if you can tell, right? This was, of course, more of a bear market, so you would see that happening more often. But ever since the bull market started off in December here, in December 2018, which is 3 years ago, almost, like a little bit over 3 years ago, you were seeing only a couple of occurrences, like one moment, second period, third period, and the fourth, fifth period. So only in this bull market, you would only have a couple of occurrences that the market is this bearish and the market is still moving in range. And this is actually showing you this behavioral, this market behavior, this people's behavior, showing the enhanced doubt whenever the market just extends the wait time. But from the technical point of view, the long-term, it applies to every trend because of the fractal nature. It applies to technical analysis with the same patterns, applies to short-term, to 1 minute timeframes, to 5 minute timeframe, to hourly, daily, or weekly, right? So the same patterns would unfold with the similar results across different timeframes. So usually when you see a lower timeframe, strong move up, just like you were seeing in here, and you see some local consolidation going on, right? This more often than not has to do with continuation of the prior trend, right? Whatever happens in here, whatever chart pattern, if you see some head and shoulders inverse, right, or you see some contracting consolidation in a coil symmetrical triangle, or expanding consolidation, right, extending triangle, megaphones, whatever you name that, this is where the majority of the people, put more doubt. And extreme fear is usually and historically proved to be rather good buying opportunity than selling opportunity. So right now, it does tell me that whenever we see, we can assume and be right or wrong about the assumptions, but whatever happens in here, right, that doesn't really invalidate the bullishness. Whatever happens in here, this tells us that we are locally somewhere midway through the for the correction, for the range, for the rectangle, range bound, no matter how we name that, which usually is pretty decent good to buy because it's an arbitrary level. If it is to bottom, it's supposed to be here because people put kind of like this, do or die thesis, an arbitrary decision based on whether it's an upper half, which is more bullish, or the lower half, which is more bearish. And assuming that we bottom somewhere over here, assuming the assumption includes the situation when no external factor just happens, and I'm talking like, again, just you name it, some natural cataclysms or some floods that would flood the entire world, or some, all of a sudden all the volcanoes, all the planet erupt and people die, and or an asteroid crashes into Earth and just we go and extinct just like dinosaurs did. So unless something as unpredictable and as unexpected as this happens, unless something like that happens, we are supposed to see probably the bottoming process somewhere around this area. Whatever happens in here, I'm not going to go into 5-minute time frame. I'm going to tell you what Bitcoin is going to do in the next 5 minutes or next hour or next 5 days, because it's still irrelevant from the larger point of view anyway. So assuming we see the bottoming process, which would make a lot of sense, strong hands per illiquid supply, my good friend Will Clemente actually just pointed very well that illiquid supply per the strong hands for the entire time of the correction, especially recently intensified, they have been increasing their holdings. They have been accumulating on the dips, while the weekends get shaken out and sell right into the hands of the smart money. So it would make a lot of sense from the technical point of view, from the on-chain point of view, which is additionally confirmed, with overextended dollar rally perhaps for the past 6 to 9 months. This would make sense to bottom out somewhere over here, right? And the next local resistance would be this momentum band provided by the new BPRO. And only once you see this actual proper breakout, right? Then this breakout technically should take us into the area of, equal to the base size of this pattern. And the base size, ladies and gentlemen, everybody, is measured from 28,000 to 69,000. This is basically around $40,000 range. And the technical analysis works in a way that, as a self-fulfilling prophecy and a rule of thumb, this mental heuristic, you would have that whatever the size of the pattern is, right, you would expect the market to resist to go after the base size is actually expired. So you add this called rule, this measured move rule, measured movement, measured rule, no matter how you name that, and usually apply that on the top of a breakout. So when you apply this $40,000 range on top of a breakout, assuming that happens with no external factors that would crash this market forever, assuming we go technical with no disturbed cases, after seeing an oversold bounce that we have right now on the base, that is shaping and also provided, that is also backed by the BPRO band, momentum band, providing the support based on the standard deviations, then this would get you from 60 or 70,000 approximately. Let's assume 70,000. This would get you $40,000 upwards range. So 70 plus 4 quick months equals Well, 110. So safe assumption is that this would place us, just this technical breakout would add enough certainty with the overall consensus from the institutions actually for moving into market. You'd see Nike, like Adidas, all of these actually just, big institutions flowing into the metaverse, into cryptocurrencies and whatnot. So it would make a perfect combination and additional certainty, reliability, and credibility for this pattern to unfold with the technical target of 100 or $110,000. So me being the technical analyst, I choose to rely on charts, of course, watching outside the charts as well. But this tells me that if we have no cases that are disturbing, this, uh, well, this technical case, this technical textbook case, right? Nothing crazy happens, as crazy or as new pandemic, right? Or Martians attack. Like you can go and figure out your wildest, unpredictable cases, and if something like that, unless something like that happens, I can see Bitcoin reaching this $110,000 just solely based on this technical analysis point of view. TA works as a self-fulfilling prophecy. It does work a lot, mainly because we make it work, right? Because people tend to oversee certain patterns, because people tend to force certain patterns because of heuristics, because of the rule of thumbs, because this is the way it's easier to process certain thoughts for them. Then assuming this follows, okay, we would see $110,000 targets levels, in my opinion, sooner than later. I'm not going to tell you when that happens. I was initially saying, this could happen conservatively in December. It didn't happen so far. It hasn't happened so far. Perhaps it takes more. Perhaps it needs to take more time to unfold. But I put my money where my mouth is. Right. I'm still longs. I still add to my positions whenever there's some significant dip, and I'm just waiting. I'm patient about this, right? If I'm wrong, I'm paying the price, and I'm fine with that because that's the risk. And long story short, in my opinion, $100,000 targets are still on, and I want to tell you guys that this show also is very special because you guys, everybody who is on the show right now, everybody who's on the stream, which is more than 500 people live, you are witnessing something historical. You're witnessing something huge. You're witnessing something very valuable, something that you're going to love. And the reason is because we are officially launching with this very webinar. And it's going to have an immediate impact and effect. We're launching the new version of the BPRO after months of heavy work from many people across the team and even outside the team, from extremely professional people who helped develop the BirbicatorPRO version once before. We guys connected again and got you something that blows my mind. The moment I saw it, it blew my mind. And it blew my mind for so many reasons. I love the BirbicatorPRO version number 1. I love the upgraded version, but this is probably the most powerful tool from the technical point of view that I have ever seen in my entire life. And we've got today special guest, the author of this trading system, of this all-in-one system and strategy, to get you guys the sweetest details, the sweetest secrets, and the best tips and suggestions for how you can actually use it. So this second part of the webinar is going to be solely dedicated to new BirbicatorPRO version and how you can apply that. And after this webinar ends, we are going to have immediate sale. So if you're ready, guys, for it, make sure you actually stay tuned. We are going to discuss the new version of BirbicatorPRO right in a second. And before I do, let give the voice over to the Aperture and to Signify. I want to mention, guys, that we are going to release with this very stream. We are going to release the new version of the Birbicator Pro. Okay, new version of the Birbicator Pro. 3 pieces of new BitPro are going to be released to those who actually stay throughout the entire stream, because we're going to give you the steps what to do with the giveaway. Okay, right later in the chat, later in the instructions in the video. So Aperture Signify, welcome to the stream. The stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, CryptoBirb. I'm joined here by Signify, the author of the Birbicator Pro, and I directly want to show you this indicator so you have an idea how it looks. You already saw it on CryptoBirb's his trading view with the bands, but this system is so versatile. It has a lot of different ways to view it and to use it. So that's why we brought Signify on to tell us a little bit more about the idea behind this indicator and what use cases it has in the market. So welcome, Signify. Thank you for joining me.
Good afternoon, Nate. Yep. Well, it's afternoon here. I hope everybody's doing well.
Yeah, good day to you too. And let's start off. Like, we had a version 1 of the Birbicator Pro, but what made us actually build a better and newer version here?
Right. So there is, again, if people have seen the version 1 and seen version 2, just comparing the two on your screen, you'll notice that I'll just say it's a little less busy. And that's mainly what generated the need or the want to make something that's more portable and usable by a larger bandwidth of traders. The nest in itself encompasses a lot of different types of traders. Everybody in themselves, whether or not they want to be a scalper or they just want to make money, or they're just starting, or they're moderately professional, has different needs and different ways that they like to view the market. And ultimately, no matter the tool or the experience that one has, there has to be, at least for the Nest, a wide range of abilities within anything that we would provide to allow people to pick it up, customize it, be able to tune it to both the market, the time frame that they're comfortable trading with, and then also be able to use those tools to create what their own system is to properly plan and execute trades. The main difference with the new one, I think, was the ability to, I would say, tune it, quote unquote, with little kind of input to the markets. I mean, the idea of a stop loss is kind of paramount to trading, and that is one of the main things that we've wrapped into the big portion of the update. There's a dual trailing system that kind of hinges the price action and gives people a basis of whether or not their bias is going to be bullish or bearish. Outside of discretionary trade actions, when you would see it on the chart, the idea is that the bias that you have when you look at any chart, whether it's Bitcoin or any asset in any time frame, just has to center you on how the probability is going to work out in terms of taking a trade and that trade going in a positive direction for your bank account. So with that said, knowing that a lot of traders are new and a lot of traders need to kind of understand this idyllic kind of principle about momentum and high time frame analysis in terms of the momentum of a trend, the new Birbicator Pro, I should say, kind of take some of the guesswork out of knowing where the main momentum is in the market and making sure, at least from a rules perspective, that people start off with just taking that bias that's kind of front and center on the chart via the trailers and taking that into how they would plan and execute trades. So that's kind of I would say the main reason why we changed some of or what's different from the first one to this one.
Yes, and I think this version absolutely makes it easier to catch that trend. And for those who are newer traders, I personally like trend trading a lot because it works really well in crypto. You can catch these type of trends, like these bigger moves, whether it's up or down, because crypto often is in some kind of a trending market. And if you have tool to visualize that and help you in finding that trend, you can make decisions easier, and you're not caught up in that information overload you can get with maybe a lot of indicators, or if you're looking at Twitter or ingesting information from all different sources, you can get paralyzed. And if you have a tool that helps you with that and makes it easier to make these decisions, I think your trading will improve. And you mentioned one really important thing, that there are two trailers in this system, and over here we can see a higher time frame trailer, and over here you can see a smaller time frame trailer too. And I think that's key in this system, where a lot of new traders struggle in finding that higher time frame trend, and also finding that lower time frame trend. And if you use both, and you'll have to switch normally between charts. And that's what we did in this version, is that we decided, or actually Signalfy advised us and wrote it, to put these two traders into one chart, so you can view what's happening also on the higher time frame and trade in that direction. So I think that's where this system absolutely shines and makes it easier to execute trades and know that trend. But there is much more to this system, right? We talk about these trailers, but there are some other elements too that help the trader make some decisions. Could you tell a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, well, on your chart, you can immediately see that we still brought back some pieces of the old BirbicatorPRO. Mainly the ones that you see are the comprehensive divergence system, which kind of wraps up. If we just talk about divergences and why they're important, many traders, whether they're using RSI, MFI, various different oscillators, will kind of make trades and have systems that are built on identifying divergences and then having executing trades against those divergences, because there's just a buildup of momentum that doesn't necessarily gel up with what the price action is showing. So as with the first version, the divergence system that's wrapped up in the BirbicatorPRO basically uses 10 oscillators to kind of combine a score for how divergent price action is against the particular trend in those oscillators that are tracked by BirbicatorPRO. So while they may not point out, at least based on the configuration settings that you have on your chart right now, every single divergence that's possible, the idea is that, again, if one trader uses RSI, another trader uses MFI to kind of identify divergences, ultimately there's going to be more traders that, if you track all the different oscillators that people could track, the divergences that are pointed out should pan out to be more powerful and or more probabilistic in terms of their following, to change direction, whether it be a bearish or a bullish divergence. So that's a big one. I think that not having those oscillators on your chart, not having to check for them, or not knowing how to learn how to read divergences is a key part of why that system's in there. For new traders especially, it can be hard to kind of know how to read and find divergences. So just being able to pull up the chart in 5 seconds on any time frame and be able to see where divergences are set, as well as set alerts for divergences, can be really powerful for traders. And then outside of the divergence system, you'll see on your chart that you've also got an immediate kind of trend identification system, which we'll just call a moving average. It's our own personal version of a moving average. That's basically a combination of two different types of moving averages, and those are smashed together and totally configurable by the user. If you like looking at one moving average to define whether or not you're going to be going up or down, that would be something that you could use within the system. Didn't want to take that away from anybody, and that actual baseline data creates some of the other aspects of the system that are new and give just a new way for people to visualize where either support and resistance are, or where supply and demand zones are, Those things are kind of additional components of the system that allow people, if they have the visual acuity and knowledge, to kind of understand it. And it just takes time. It's not like something that makes people afraid or clutter the chart. All these tools really do give an idea of what's going on in terms of the price action, and you can kind of look at over time in terms of just visually backtesting what happens when you see these particular lines, how they can kind of inform you about what's going on in trend. So you turned on the supply and demand visualizations here, and ultimately what that's doing, because you have, can you turn on your settings for a minute? So you're 20. Okay, so in general, on a 4-hour chart, we're basically just looking at where the baseline in itself is interacting again with itself and creating these different zones of consolidation as these boxes kind of stack up, either one on top of each other, or if they are, like we've seen in the last, I guess, month and a half, or I'm sorry, from the 4th to the 17th, we've been basically going sideways, and those boxes kind of indicate the fact that we are channeling. So not that you couldn't tell that from the price action, but again, just tools to kind of demarcate where the highs and the lows are, as well as where potential zones for breakouts are. If you're a breakout trader, some of these tools are helpful in that capacity. And again, from a holistic perspective of what BirbicatorPRO tries to seek and serve, is the fact that if you're a trend trader, if you're a breakout trader, if you're a divergence trader, long, short, position trader, swing, everything can kind of be done with the composition tools that are wrapped up into one indicator. So in that sense, knowing how you trade and how you like to put time and effort into trading, it tries to seek and serve not only you, but also a large majority of different other types of traders, and give them the power and the tools that they need to make those decisions.
Yeah, so that's, I think, an important aspect where people are often looking for buy and sell signals in the market, but if you don't have a strategy, those buy and sell signals are often just bad copy trading and will only hurt you more than anything else. And I think a tool like this makes it also easier to begin with finding your own style, because you remove some of that struggle some have while opening a chart, like where are the support and resistances, where what divergences do I see, and if they make mistakes in that, that's where also the rest of the conclusion and the actions from these traders go wrong. So if you can automate that, you remove some of that human error, and you can have a tool that also not only is right, but also removes some of that time aspect. So if you don't have time to watch the charts all day or do analysis on every chart, you can just put on a tool or a template like the BirbicatorPRO, and that can help you with your analysis. So I think that's a really important aspect. And I want to remind everybody that we're giving away 3 BirbicatorPROs subscriptions. So keep an eye on the screen, because we are flashing some codes. It might be on the screen currently, but make sure if that code is on the screen, you can check the link in the live stream description and follow those instructions, and you'll have a chance to win this subscription. So you can try it out, and you can have access to this premium trading tool for free. So I want to ask you, Signify, but also I want to tell members what we're planning more on doing with this indicator, because it might seem a little bit daunting to new members to use this indicator, because there are a lot of features. Like, what will you be doing to help these newer traders out?
Sure. So we'll kind of taking a lot of the learning that we had from the first version. It does represent a framework and a toolbox for people to kind of add and remove things, create their own systems. But I think that ultimately it helps hearing about different aspects of the tool. Having that in visual format in terms of videos is going to be added to the actual formal documentation that is also available in text. So, you can read. A lot of people don't like to read and they just like to watch videos. So we're going to take every one of those little components and actually break down an actual video and put them in here when they're uploaded so that people can see it and hear, myself kind of walking through the use of every single one, and all the little fine nuanced details that would be necessary to kind of be able to take those tools and then, massage them on the chart so that you would actually be able to use them appropriately. And it's not that they can't just be thrown on a chart, but there are obviously some basic rules. And then there's also more detailed rules for things like the scalper system and just generally how to tune the signals if you're going to be doing something like automated trading. A lot of those things tend to be thought of as just plug and play, and that's honestly how people lose money. It's also how people who don't understand how botting works, they don't understand necessarily how trading works, can kind of form negative opinions about something when they really just don't understand how to use the tool. So using both the technical documentation that's on the screen as well as through videos, more videos, I should say, and having kind of ongoing kind of workshops is kind of the plan to kind of help people just not only understand the basic foundations of the system, which is the trailers and being able just to trade in the direction of the trailers, but also how the additional tools within the toolkit can help kind of inform those other take profit events or de-risk events that people would need to know when they're in trend. So that's kind of just the general idea, is to just put more effort toward video learning and then also keep this documentation up to speed and up to date with whatever we kind of glean from the users of it and help people with what they need most. Again, for me to be able to use it, it's much different than somebody else. We try to kind of provide the toolbox for a lot of different traders. But again, we have to develop a line in the sand somewhere and say that this is how you use it. And this is at least the bare minimum of how you would configure it if you're this style of trader. You brought up a good page there with the visual modes. The last version had, presets where you just, flip between different types of visualizations. In this version, it kind of comes clean out of the box. You can look at it with just candles and get your view if you like a clean chart. And in this documentation that you'll be able to access, you'll kind of just see one of the many different combinations of tools that are within BirbicatorPRO that can be enabled or disabled to kind of fit your need and fit your visual eye of what you like to see when you trade. So having those examples is hopefully a nice place for people to start. And from there, you can kind of do your own customization for what you want enabled or disabled.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point to note that these Birbicator docs, the documentation for the BirbicatorPRO, is always free. Like, you can read it and watch it, so you can get an idea how the indicator works and how it can work for you, especially. And on top of that, we're going to create a lot of videos explaining all these single elements in the indicator, but also provide you with strategies or use cases. For example, if you want a 4-hour strategy and you want to follow a trend, that's where we'll make a video and help you with that. So in the coming weeks, we'll create lots of content about this BirbicatorPRO. We are also going to roll out some help channels in the Birb Nest. So if you have a BirbicatorPRO subscription, you can join those channels. And if you have questions, the Nest team will help you out with answering those questions and will help you out in using this tool. So make sure if you have a subscription to also join the Discord, because that way we can help you out and you can share your experience with these users. And that's also what we want to build. We want to build a community with this indicator so everybody can help each other out and learn together and stay strong together in the market. So I think that's a really important aspect here. And I think a lot of you are wondering, like, how do we get this Birbicator Pro? Well, you can just visit our website, thebirbmass.com. And then if you click on services, you can click on the Birbicator Pro. And something very important to notice here is that if you purchase before 2022, so you have only, I think, like 2 weeks left until that happens, you get both the Birbicator Pro 2.0, that's the version you just saw, and you can get the Birbicator Pro Classic, and that's the previous version. So you get 2 indicators for the price of 1, and the price will stay the same until the end of the year. After that, we can't promise you anything, so consider it a little bit of a Christmas gift that you can get these indicators for the price of 1 and still at the price of the Birbicator Pro Classic. And if you pay with crypto, you also get a 10% off. So that makes it also a little bit more attractive to pay with crypto for this indicator. I think we discussed most of the developments for the Birbicator Pro. But Signify, do you want to add something? Do you feel the listener needs to know more about using this system, or do you just want to say, well, just grab a copy and try it out yourself?
No, I mean, of course, I hope people give it a chance. I mean, one of the things with any kind of system that you pick up or tool in life, I think that people have to understand that there's going to be a learning curve with it. We tried to make it easier this time. There are, basically one rule in the whole system this time is that there's one setting. Ape, I don't know if you want to just pop open the settings there and just say, if you're on a 4-hour chart, you're going to be configuring the high time frame trailer.
Yep.
Governor resolution to something like 1, 2, 3 to 4 times higher than the chart time frame that you're on, and that's what basically locks in most of the components of the system and is consistent with the core intent of what you're supposed to use the Birbicator Pro for. The signals, quote unquote, that are always on the chart that you'll see that have bull and bear tags, they again are not necessarily entry or exit signals. They are just marking where Birbicator Pro is saying the market is bullish or bearish. That's different from entry or exit signals. So for everybody who doesn't like to read, that is what they are. They can be entry and exit signals, and they're profitable in their own right. But the main point of the whole system is to give people a framework for where they can step down from multiple time frames and then plan and execute trades so that they get better entries after they know that they are confirming a trend in the direction that they want to take the trade. And again, for most people who don't use indicators or know that indicators can be used in a lot of different ways, I think, going through and making sure that you understand what the real intent of the indicator is and knowing some of those core basic concepts of trend following really kind of help center on what Birbicator Pro is telling you and how you can use it to plan trades. Using all the different other aspects of the toolkit that's inside require more, intentful kind of practice. And, of course, it's not built as an Autobot system. So if you go throw it on a 1-minute chart and don't make money right out of the box, that's just because you didn't tune it the right way and don't understand that that's not necessarily how it works in life with a lot of these systems. So I think that outside of just understanding that it's a completely customizable tool that can be very profitable, it's just that it's something that is supposed to live with you and be a key piece of how you look at the market and find a good trade that works for how you can execute it. And that's what I would ask people to do when they pick it up. It's money printer, let's just say, that's just kind of a flagrant way to say that it's possible to make money if you just buy and sell with the visuals, and that's kind of the point. But it also mostly tangibly relies on people's ability to execute what the data is showing you on the graph. And that can be done a lot of different ways. And obviously, there's a whole subset of trading that involves risk management, which has to be applied outside of any signal that you get from any indicator. So having people be a part of the nest and learn the standard practices of trading is still applicable no matter what the indicator is. A lot of those details are wrapped up in this indicator to try to simplify things. But again, I think that the more practice that you have with it and the more time you spend with understanding what's on the chart is going to yield better results regardless of the initial kind of view of what this is. And of course, we've only went over, you know, a minor subset of the actual components here, but the idea is that it does give you pretty much everything that you would need to do any kind of style trading.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point, that this can work for somebody who's looking on a daily chart and maybe only has time to watch the charts once a day. And it also can work for traders who can be active multiple times during the day, as long as you pick the indicator, tweak it a little bit to the time frame, and then go in. And the tweaking can easily be done. As you saw, I just clicked a few, like for example, I just clicked the 3-day trailer, I put them on the chart, and I went to the daily time frame, and you can see that over here you can catch these bigger trends in Bitcoin, for example, quite well. And I think it's also something people like to catch, the absolute bottoms and tops. And I think we both agree that it's impossible to do that in the market. So please don't do that. But you can have higher probability systems in place, so you can at least get the biggest chunk of the move. So that's, I think, an important feature here of the BirbicatorPRO. I think hopefully you got the code for the giveaway for the BirbicatorPRO. Hopefully, maybe we'll flash it once more on the screen. So make sure you visit the link in the description so you can join the giveaway for the BirbicatorPRO and you can try it out yourself. If you already want to go to the website, you can do it, and you can sign up for the indicator and grab your copy. So I think that's it for now. Of course, expect much more from us on the BirbicatorPRO. We'll be making lots of content to help you out and get you started with this tool. Thank you, Signalify, first for creating such a beautiful indicator that definitely helps a lot of traders here. It already is helping me a lot in my analysis. And thank you also for coming on this stream.
Sure, no problem. And thanks, guys, for your time. And hopefully, I see everybody in the nest.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, see everybody in the nest, and we'll see how you like this indicator. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.